want to ask you, the Minnesota GOP is holding a press conference this afternoon to criticize you for your support a couple of years ago, before you were the vice president, for something called the Minnesota Freedom Fund that was really set up to help those who were arrested in the aftermath of the George Floyd riots, help them get out. It's since been sort of morphed into something else and has been used to help people get out who've been accused of many other crimes. Do you have any thoughts about this?
Well, first of all, I am a child of parents who marched for civil rights in the 1960s in America. And I have always been and will always be a supporter of peaceful protests. Many peaceful protests over the history of our country have led to an expansion of rights and an expansion of civil rights. So that's where I stand on peaceful protest. And I think that, unfortunately, what we're seeing is people are playing political games right now. We're 18 days away from midterms, and we have sadly not seen a lack of misinformation and disinformation. And I think this is another one of those examples.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about another story that is proof and evidence that we are, in fact, living in 1984, because the liberal media is currently trying to rewrite history in an attempt to engineer an election victory for Kamala Harris. That is what is happening, folks. This is election interference happening right in front of our faces by rewriting history so that people, normies, won't discover how radical Kamala Harris is, because the framing from the media is that Kamala Harris is not some left-wing lunatic. No. She is actually a moderate, according to people like Sonny Holston on The View.
Republicans are trying to frame her as this deep leftist. She's a former prosecutor. She's not only a former prosecutor, she was the AG of the largest Department of Justice in the country other than the real Department of Justice. Prosecutors are not really leftists. They put people in jail for a living, okay? They're pretty moderate. I know the vice president personally. She is not, she's moderate. And I was talking to Alyssa about that. And then they want to attack her on her record. She is one of the most accomplished. Can I respond to that, or do you want
Yes. I think the point is that in 2020, she ran in a moment where she ran to the left. And if she had run the campaign...
Meaning what?
Meaning focusing on...
Like what? Give
so
me an
one example was, this is the moment of George Floyd, the country's torn apart, and she put out...
She couldn't be the prosecutor then. She couldn't be hard on crime.
She put out a statement
then,
saying she wanted to bail out people who were protesting in streets. So people took that a certain way. They felt like she was running to the left. I think it's why she didn't resonate in that primary, and someone like Biden won. She's not doing that now. This is a centrist Democratic message.
She's leaning into who she really is, because if you really want to talk about it, after George Floyd, people were angry about law enforcement. People were upset with prosecutors. They were upset with police officers. Yeah. They were upset with policing in this country. So to run as a law and order candidate in 2020 would have been a bad move.
Her party picked on her for that during the primary.
And what she's doing now is who she really is, and I think that's why it's resonating. I think that's why they have all these phone calls.
And she rightly came out and condemned these horrible anti-Semitic protests in Washington, D.C.
Which is who she is, because she's also married to a Jewish guy.
Yeah, so Kamala Harris is fake, right? According to Sonny Holston, right? Because she's saying that, well, Kamala Harris is really a law and order candidate. You guys don't understand. She's not soft on crime. She only did that because she was trying to win votes, right? She was trying to win an election. So that's why she became so soft on crime that she openly supported defunding the police and progressive DAs, which apparently doesn't exist according to Sonny Holston. It's impossible for you to be a progressive prosecutor.
In the summer of 2020, when there were protests across the country after a police officer murdered George Floyd, many progressives and liberals were talking about defunding police departments nationwide. One local radio show asked then-Senator Kamala Harris where she stood on the defund the police movement. Take a listen to this.
Defund the police. The issue behind it is that we need to reimagine how we are creating safety. And when you have many cities that have 1/3 of their entire city budget focused on policing, we know that is not the smart way and the best way or the right way to achieve safety. This whole movement is about rightly saying we need to take a look at these budgets and figure out whether it reflects the right priorities. For too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong.
Now, in another interview that same week, Harris praised Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti for removing $150 million from the police budget and investing that money in social services. Listen to this.
That's a legitimate conversation, and it requires a really critical evaluation. I applaud Eric Garcetti for doing what he's done.
Now, some important context here is that polling showed that reducing police budgets was never really popular, even in 2020. A Pew Research poll found that year that just 25% of adults supported reducing police budgets that year, and by 2021, that support had decreased to just 15%.
Yeah, so according to Sunny Holston, Kamala Harris, even though she was a senator and she wasn't named vice president yet, she could not come out on the side of law and order because, well, everybody just agreed that defunding the police was a good thing, right? Being soft on crime was a good thing at that time, right? And it's like, no, that's actually not what people agreed with back then. Okay, you had the far left lunatics agreeing with that, but most reasonable people did not agree with that. But again, why did Kamala agree with that? Because she is in fact a far left lunatic, right? That is the only logical explanation for why she would come out in support of that back then when it wasn't popular, right? It was not popular to be pro defund the police. That was a far left thing, okay? And, that was a Democrat Party thing because the Democrat Party is far left, okay? She's not some centrist. She's not some moderate. But again, you notice how they're casually admitting how being far left is a bad thing, right? They're letting you know that, yeah, we really know that the far left label is not good, right? That's not really helping, that leftism in this country is not popular, right? This is what they're admitting out loud. This is why they have to reframe her as a centrist. However, Kamala has not come out with any policies that to me would indicate some sort of move towards the center, which is what Alyssa Farah Griffin is kind of saying, which again, in my opinion, is just weird because, again, what policies have Kamala Harris articulated that would make you suggest that she's moved towards the middle? Has she all of a sudden become tough on the border, right? Is she agreeing with the GOP on their Secure the Border Act? I don't think so. Has Kamala Harris come out here and talk about how we need to cut spending, that we're spending too much money, we're sending too much money overseas? No, she hasn't come out and expressed support for that. Has she come out and condemned the progressive DAs that are allowing chaos and destruction in these liberal cities? No, she hasn't come out and condemned any of the lawlessness going on in these liberal cities. So again, I'm trying to figure out exactly what policies have Kamala Harris articulated to make you believe that she's now all of a sudden a centrist, right? But see, the reality is she hasn't articulated any policies at all, because like I keep telling you guys, if you actually really learn what Kamala Harris believes, a lot of people are going to instantly be turned off by her radical positions. And again, this is why you have the rewriting of history, which brings me to the story right here. Okay, straight out of a George Orwell novel. CBS station slapped with community note after claiming Trump misled about Harris-backed bail fund. Okay, so Kamala Harris, everybody should be familiar with this story, but Kamala Harris supported the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which is a fund that was being used to bail out criminals, okay, rapists, murderers, gang members, thugs, okay? They were trying to get violent criminals out of jail by raising money for them to post bail. And Kamala Harris had infamously tweeted out that, hey, you should chip in to the Freedom Fund to help get criminals out of jail, right? This is what she supported. But the media is trying to reprogram people into believing that, no. It is false to say that Kamala Harris supported this fund. She didn't personally support the fund. So any of the attacks from Republicans like Trump, they're false, which is how CBS framed their news report on Trump attacking Kamala Harris for supporting the Minnesota Freedom Fund. Take a look.
Donald Trump is using a 2022 Minnesota murder case to attack Vice President Kamala Harris.
Trump claims Harris helped raise millions and personally donated to a fund that received extra support to bail out protesters in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. Esme Murphy looks at the facts.
At a rally in Charlotte, North Carolina, former President Trump said this.
One of the dangerous criminals Kamala helped bail out of jail was Sean Michael Tillman. You know that name, a repeat offender who, with Harris's help, was set free. He then went on to murder a man on a train platform in St. Paul, Minnesota, shooting him in cold blood 6 times, lying on the ground.
While parts of the president's statement are true, Sean Michael Tillman did kill a man after being released from jail. Other parts of the former president's statement are misleading. In June of 2020, just after George Floyd's death, then California Senator Kamala Harris tweeted, "If you're able to, chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota." Nearly 2 years later, on April 25, 2022, Sean Michael Tillman was arrested in St. Paul on a gross misdemeanor indecent exposure charge. Bail was set at $2,000, and he was put in jail. On May 3, 2022, the Minnesota Freedom Fund paid his $2,000 bail, and he was released. On May 20th, Tillman murdered a man at the light rail station in downtown St. Paul. He is now serving a life sentence for that crime. The Minnesota Freedom Fund said it is not correct that then Senator Harris has donated to our organization. We have no relationship with Harris beyond a single 4-year tweet. The Harris for President campaign declined to comment. Esme Murphy, WCCO News.
Yeah, so this so-called fact check from the mainstream liberal media is probably one of the most egregious examples of just straight up propaganda that I've ever seen in my life. Because while they're trying to fact check Trump, they're actually getting their facts wrong about what Trump actually said, right? They're quite literally putting words in Trump's mouth and trying to fact check him on something that he actually really didn't say, okay? It's a classic straw man, right? And that is what pisses me off about mainstream liberal media and their so-called fact checks, is that this type of semantics game is essentially what fact checks have now become about, right? Because it's really about finding some statement, some broad statement that's generally true, finding a small part of that statement that you can argue is false, and then labeling the whole thing as false, right? That's essentially what they do, okay? That's what they do. But I want to actually read the quote, okay? Because what they're fact-checking Trump on is this idea that he said that Kamala personally donated to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. Although, again, we know for a fact that Kamala Harris did, in fact, support the Minnesota Freedom Fund because she tweeted out a link for people to donate as a sitting politician. That's actually a big deal, right? That's essentially an endorsement, okay? She basically endorsed all of the individuals that this fund got out of prison, and then they ended up going and killing people, right? Kamala Harris endorsed that, okay? It's on her X profile. But this is what Trump actually said. This is the quote. "One of the dangerous criminals Kamala helped bail out of jail was Sean Michael Tillman," Trump said at a rally in Charlotte, North Carolina. Quote, "You know that name, a repeat offender who, with Harris's help, was set free. He then went on to murder a man on a train platform in St. Paul, Minnesota, shooting him in cold blood 6 times, lying on the ground." Now, somebody tell me, maybe my reading comprehension skills need work, but somebody tell me, where in this quote does Trump say that Kamala Harris personally donated to the Freedom Fund? It doesn't say that at all. Now, if Trump actually said that in the speech, it would be nice for CBS to actually quote when he said that in the speech, which leads me to believe that he didn't actually say that. Like, he never said that Kamala Harris personally or financially supported the Freedom Fund with her own personal. He never actually made that claim. The claim that he made was that Kamala helped bail out of jail dangerous criminals, which is true, right? That's just factually true. When she put up that tweet, she helped bail out criminals because she was fundraising on their behalf. Again, this is not hard to understand, okay? Also, he says that a repeat offender with Harris's help was set free. So, again, what is untrue about that? She helped them by tweeting the link. So, there's nothing in this statement that's false. But CBS is trying to say that part of his statement was false because he claimed that Harris personally donated to the fund when Trump never actually claimed that. Again, let's read this. While parts of Trump's statement are true, Sean Michael Tillman did murder a man in St. Paul after being released from jail. Other parts of the former president's statement are misleading. So again, what they're trying to say is that, well, it is not correct that then Senator Harris has donated to our organization. We have no relationship with Harris beyond a single 4-year-old tweet. Okay, so again, where is it that Trump actually said that Kamala Harris gave a personal donation to the Freedom Fund? He didn't say that. So again, they're fact checking him on something that he didn't say, right? This is what they're doing. And then you have CBS running this propaganda, accusing Trump of saying something that he didn't say or lying in order to make it seem like Kamala Harris is not associated with the Freedom Fund and that Kamala Harris should bear no responsibility for the chaos and destruction that has happened as a result of the criminals that were let out of jail, right? So even Elon Musk is calling this out because his community notes feature on X fact check CBS. He said CBS lies about Trump lying. Yeah, they are lying. That's exactly what they're doing. Okay. Ryan Fournier says she literally told people to donate to this. Nice lie. Like a page out of 1984. Yeah, it is. I mean, it really is. Andy No says, I'm actually really disturbed to see a local legacy media outlet boldly lie like this in public. You're liars. Yeah, so a lot of people are calling this outlet out as liars because they are liars. Because, again, this is just blatant propaganda. And they're doing the exact same thing with the border, right? They're saying, well, Kamala Harris was never border czar, even though we have evidence and proof that she was, in fact, border czar. I mean, there's footage after footage after footage, documentation after documentation after documentation of Kamala Harris being a border czar. But they're trying to tell you that you're pushing misinformation by saying that she was in charge of the border. She was put in charge of the border to solve the root causes of illegal immigration, right? Which she clearly failed to do. But yet the media is trying to change history for what is supposed to be such a strong candidate, right? This is the thing about the Kamala Harris candidacy that really annoys me. They're trying to tell us that Kamala Harris is so strong and that the Trump campaign is so afraid of her. But at the same time, if she's so strong, if her record is so good, why are you lying about it? Why are you rewriting history? Why are you trying to say that she's a moderate or she's a centrist when she's not? If everything she's done, her record is so good, then why try to recreate the past and lie about it if she's so great? Because they know that she's not, right? They know that she's weak as hell. And that once people actually learn how radical she is going to tank, right? That's what's going to happen. So again, they can enjoy the honeymoon right now. They can enjoy the little boost in polls, right? They can enjoy all that. But they can't hide the fact that Kamala Harris is a radical who will lead this country off of a cliff. She's a continuation of the progressive Looney Tunes policies that have destroyed these liberal cities, okay? Voting for Kamala Harris is like voting for the Californification of the United States of America. That's what it is, and everybody knows this, including the left, which is why they have to lie about Kamala Harris and rewrite history. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.